Use this mic. Thanks, friend. As Ayyar Sahib has said, I was intensely involved, being a Gujarati and also being a part of the Narmada Bachao Andolan for more than 6 years. I was intensely involved in issues of Gujarat rivers. Uh, Unfortunately, over the last few years, I have not been that intensely involved in this issue, but uh, as part of my work under South Asia Network on Dams, Rivers and People, we continue to look at rivers, water and dams related issues all over India, including Gujarat. And Narmada continues to remain a key issue of interest. So when I was thinking of making a presentation of this, the first thing that came to mind is what is a river? And there is no single definition of a river. I'll just skip what the dictionary or USGS is saying. But I was recently at an interesting meeting at IIT Kanpur on rivers. And there was a discussion what is a river there. And it was said that river has 4 dimensions. The 3 spatial dimensions, longitudinal, lateral, vertical, and the 4th temporal dimension. The temporal dimension has evolutionary trajectory, and this needs to be respected. It's not just for us or for now. It cannot be handled by reductionist science, because actually, if you look at a river, it's a collection of everything about the science we know about actually. The reductionist science tends to look at things reducing into a smaller focused area, whereas this is a area where everything, all our knowledge needs to be put together and not in a reductionist way. There are many parts of the river. The whole is greater than the parts. We do not have a good inventory of the rivers and what we have done to them. Rivers also undergo natural changes, but what we have done to rivers have had much more far-reaching impact. A few months back, I was writing something for a newspaper. They wanted me to write about rivers. So we put together a definition, I along with my colleague, and this is what we came about. A river is a hydrological, geomorphic, ecological, biodiversity-rich landscape-level system that serves as key part of freshwater cycle, balancing dynamic, though not always in continuum. For example, whenever a tributary meets the river, there can be a sudden discontinuity in the river. But continuing equilibrium between soil moisture, snowfall, rainfall, surface water, groundwater, and providing large number of social, environmental, economical, cultural, aesthetic, religious services to the people and ecosystems all along its watershed. This sounds very complicated, but I guess rivers are complicated. I'm not sure it can be reduced to a simpler definition. Now, what is a healthy river? So, we have to look at that living river. An entity which performs all the above mentioned services, all the evolutionary, geomorphic, ecological, social, cultural, economic functions, giving life not only to the selected class of society, but the living world at large, can be called a living river. Of course, we have to look at, in a sense, in a relative sense, because a dying river is also a living river, like a dying human being. It's an unfortunate phrase, but a dying human being is also a living human being. We want that human being to live. Similarly, a dying river is also a certain extent still a living river, with some hope there. So, for example, rivers are evolutionary, ephemeral or seasonal, while some rivers do not meet the sea, but they disappear in the deserts. But this is particularly we have seen in Gujarat. There are a number of them which disappear in deserts, like the Khari, Banas and Saraswati rivers of Gujarat. This cannot be compared with rivers meeting the sea like Narmada, Tapi, Mahi, Sabarmati. These are the big rivers of Gujarat. There is an Australian definition which we will not go into. They have described what a river can be. And this is very interesting actually, but I'll just skip here. We can go into it later on. So Gujarat rivers, there are many variations and contradictions as one would expect, because Gujarat has one of the driest regions of Kutch, with rainfall of less than 400 millimeters. In fact, some parts of Kutch have rainfall of less than even 100 millimeters. And at the same time, if you go to south, there are areas where up to 1300, 1500, 2000 millimeters of rainfall also exists. So South Gujarat region has an average rainfall of more than 1100 millimeters, Central Gujarat 800 to 1000, Saurashtra 400 to 800, and Kutch less than 400. Besides, these are the typical way the geographers describe Gujarat, but there is another category of description which needs to be looked into, is eastern belt of Gujarat. This eastern belt of Gujarat actually is a hilly area, is a forested area, is mostly inhabited by tribals, and this is the area which is the source of most of the perennial rivers of Gujarat. Unfortunately, that area doesn't get described as a separate geographic area. So Gujarat has about 185 rivers, out of which 71 rivers basins are in Saurashtra. 97, Kutch is a small area. It's of course the largest district of India, but it has 97 river basins, small ones. The river basin of Kutch are of course very small. The available surface water availability in Gujarat is 38 billion cubic meters, and the groundwater is 12 billion cubic meters, total 50. And we have given a breakup along these 4 regions. You can see that South Gujarat has the largest quantity of water available, both surface water and groundwater. But that is the region which is also been cornering most of the water resource available and being developed. So this is the drainage map of Gujarat, along with the main places marked and some of the rivers marked. This is a more elaborate drainage map with more clearly demarcated various river basins. Some of the major rivers, Banas is in the north, beginning with north. It originates in Rajasthan, Sirohi, and flows by the foothills of Abu and disappears in the desert, as I described earlier. Saraswati takes its birth in Koteshwar near Ambaji, just on the border with Rajasthan. It flows by Sidhpur, Patan, and merges into desert again. Sabarmati is one of the 4 biggest rivers of Gujarat. Is majorly in news these days for riverfront development work. But it's very interesting, the water that you see in that riverfront development is actually not Sabarmati water. It's coming from somewhere else. But this used to be a perennial river about 50 years back. It has become dried and polluted. Its state at least 15 years back was possibly as bad as Yamuna, and in some cases worse than Yamuna. But today you will see a lot of fresh water, not because of some miracle that has happened in the Sabarmati basin, but because the water is imported from elsewhere. Sabarmati originates from the Debar Lake in Rajasthan. Pardon?
Excuse me, we can hardly read that. So
right, I am reading out. That's why I am reading out.
No, but then what's the use? If you can move the projector back, maybe it will enlarge more.
I don't know whether it's possible.
Brightness is a problem.
So Sabarmati originates from Debar Lake in Rajasthan and floats towards the Gulf of Cambay. Mahi is another major river of central Gujarat. It has the tributaries of Bhadar, Anas, Panam, and Meshri. Narmada is of course the biggest river of Gujarat, and its only Gujarat tributary, Karjan, has also been dammed. Tapi comes from Maharashtra into Gujarat, and also there are some parts of Madhya Pradesh which are in Tapi basin. There is as the river enters, like in case of Mahi, as the Mahi enters Gujarat, there is a huge dam on it. As Sabarmati enters Gujarat, there is a huge dam on it. As Tapi enters Gujarat, there is a huge dam, Ukai, on it. uh, and